So the third area of data that we might really be wanting to think about is, does the data demonstrate how much progress in their learning the students are making? This is actually probably the hardest bit, but ultimately it's the clearest indicator of how well our students are making progress in their learning, and actually therefore what impact and how effective our hub is in helping young people make the progress that we think they deserve. So the key issue here is for hubs to be able to have data which demonstrates how much progress are all our young people making across the whole hub, but also, and this is the hardest bit, how much progress are individual students making? How much progress is this student making over 1 year, over 3 years, over 5 years? Is that a reasonable amount of progress? Could they be making even more secure and faster progress over time? So it's about the hub as a whole cohorts of students, and it's about individual students. It's worth bearing in mind the comparison here with how schools look at progress data. Now clearly they have fewer students than we have across a whole hub. It makes their job a little easier. But nevertheless, in principle, it's worth thinking about how they manage it. They will be rigorously analysing the progress that their students make across key stages as a whole cohort of young people. So for secondary schools, how much progress do they make in their core subjects from when they enter secondary school to their GCSE results? And they'll be looking standardly at 3 levels of progress. But you can also look within individual music departments. They will be having targets set for them for each individual child, and you can actually see their charts which are trying to demonstrate the progress in learning that those students are making. So if we want to look over here, this particular spreadsheet has a list of all the students in the school year, and it shows how much progress at the end here each student has made in terms of the levels across key stages 3 and 4 in English, maths and science. And you can probably see they are colour-coded so that they range from a light pink, or actually a dark pink for the least progress, right through shades of green to show the strongest progress. So at random, here we have a student who made 4 levels of progress in English, 3 in science and 4 in maths, whereas this student made 2 levels of progress in their English, 1 in science and 2 in maths. So that's how schools will be looking at it. And in terms of the music departments, this is just a spreadsheet showing the complete progress chart for every student in one music class at Key Stage 3, trying to show how well they are matching their tracked targets. So again, we can see that with this data actually given against core subjects, there's a big issue around that one which we'll park for the moment, but it does show again what the music teacher is expected to know about the progress that every child is making across the whole year. So there are probably 2 key things we need to remember when we're looking at data on progress. The first is, how many stages or grades of progress do our students make over a course of a single year? And the second is, how many stages of progress do our students make over time? And that's both for all students and for individual students. And we should be able to find out, if a student's been learning for 1 year, how many grades of progress might they have made? If they've been learning 3 years or 5 years, what kind of progress might we expect them to have made? And here's something really important. Traditionally, instrumental and vocal teachers have been and still are very good at knowing their individual students and where they need to go next. That, what do I do with this individual group of students or this individual student for next week, over the next 3 weeks, where do they need to go? That's very clear. I think what the data can help us do is stand back a bit from that and look at all of our students and say, do you know what? Is their oral work really developing as well as their solo work? And if not, what is it about my teaching that I need to develop to make a change, again, so that those students can make faster progress, more secure progress in their learning? Just one last thought about all that data collection on progress and the use of spreadsheets, which can be helpful in pointing out questions. Just bear in mind that that's about tracking progress over time. It's not actually about assessment in lessons. Assessment in lessons, you only got to look at the Ofsted documentation and guidance they produced recently, is a different kind of area to think about. So let's not get confused about looking at data from spreadsheets to give us guidance and questions and musical assessment in lessons. So 3 last ideas to consider about data and progress in learning. The first is we have to make sure that data is as robust as possible. So how we capture the data becomes really important. As an example, in Hampshire we try and make sure that the staff give an indication of standards at the end of the year and then reinforce at the beginning of the year. We have discovered that there are some discrepancies between how staff interpret the question, the working stage or working grade of any individual pupil, particularly when they're between grades. If they've taken a grade 6 months before or 3 months before, they've made progress. Are they at the old grade, or have they actually reached the standard of the next grade but just haven't taken the exam? To be honest, it doesn't matter what people all agree they're going to put on the form from which the data will be collected. What does matter is that everybody interprets the data or the question for that data in the same way, because that means that the data is robust and you can start to make the comparisons. The second area that we need to consider is an agreement on those rates of progress. Do we have a view amongst all our staff and amongst our students about what is a reasonable amount of progress, what good progress would look like over a given period of time? And that also applies not just to a stage of learning, so can you make more progress as a beginner than if you're at grade 7, but also does apply across different instruments. Is it to be expected that woodwind players will make more progress on their instruments than, for instance, keyboard players? Now, there's no definitive answer on these, but we do need to have a debate amongst staff and with our students about the progress they can make over time and at different stages, so that we can again be clearer about what the data is then telling us.